so in love with you.
Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is gonna be absolutely bonkers. Now, the data is in, and Florida's housing market crisis is getting bad. The unaffordability is spreading throughout the state and creating a liquidity crisis, and things are starting to slow down significantly. Now, unfortunately, Florida is acting extremely stubborn as a result of the overwhelming amount of investor share and second home purchasing, or rather, the vacancy rate in Florida is crazy. So today we're going to try to explore 5 different metro areas to get a better idea of where the housing market crash is going to start and what metro area it's going to hit the hardest. So we're going to look at investor share, we're going to look at price decline, and we're going to look at inventory from a months of supply aspect. Now, the 5 metro areas that we're going to look at today is Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. Now, do me a favor, guys, for putting the metro area report together. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't leave me hanging, guys. Shoot me a comment below. Now, remember, I'm going to start with investor share because I believe the metro areas with the most investor share are typically going to show us the heaviest price declines, because I believe we're going to have a wave of inventory that actually comes from investors, because unlike 2008, right now, actually, rent is going down. So I believe as a result of all that investor share, not to mention flippers, that's going to create some amazing buying opportunities. So that's where we're going to start today. Now, I have learned some really shocking stuff about Florida, guys. The investor shares in Florida it's just completely outrageous. But we're going to start with Jacksonville. Now, overall, Jacksonville actually's total amount of housing units is 32%. So 32% of housing units went to investors in 2022 to year to date. So if we look at the top 5 zip codes in Jacksonville as far as investor market share, we can see that 32209 had 58% of total housing units going to investors in 2022. That is astonishing, but overall 32%. That is mega bad. So now we're looking at Orlando. Now, Orlando actually has 26% of total housing units going to investors. So that is astonishing, you guys. But the top 5 zip codes for investor share in 2022 are right here, with the biggest investor share going to 32811 at 54% of total housing units going to investor shares in Orlando in 2022. Now, Tampa was the metro area I was actually the most interested about because I'm seeing a lot of new construction going on there. But as we get on through this video, you're going to see that Tampa actually may not present the best buying opportunities. Regardless, an overwhelming amount of investor share of 25% overall is held in Tampa. So 25% of total housing units going to investors. The top 5 zip codes are right here, guys. Number 1 zip code as far as investor market share is 33594 at 42% of housing units going to investors in Tampa in 2022. So now we have Fort Lauderdale. Total amount of investor share in 2022 for the entire city of Fort Lauderdale is 20%. So 20%, guys. Now here's the top 5 zip codes. The number 1 zip code for investor market share is 33019 at 49% of total housing units going to investors in Fort Lauderdale in 2022. Now we're going to round this out by looking at Miami, and Miami is every metro area that we cover, guys, astonishing. I can't believe the amount of investor share, but Miami is at 29% of total housing units overall going to investors in 2022. It's shocking to me, absolutely shocking. But look at the top 5 zip codes in Miami. The number 1 zip code for investor market share is 33127 at 60% of total housing units going to investors in 2022 in Miami. So overall, I would say the top metro area so far that we covered is Jacksonville, because 32% of all of Jacksonville for 2022, as far as housing units, 32% went to investors. So in that category of what we're looking at, clearly, well, first of all, every one of those metro areas, insane amount of investor share, but 32% Jacksonville, astonishing, guys. Now let's look at the next thing right now, which is actual price declines from peak. And unfortunately, guys, not all of the metro areas that we're going to cover today are really experiencing significant price cuts. So as you guys can see, this is Redfin's weekly housing market data. This is median sales price. We're obviously going to start with Jacksonville. Now, as you can see, Jacksonville peaked at $382,000. It's now gone down. Median sales price has now gone down to $356,000 for a loss of $26,000 from peak to right now, representing a loss of 6.8% in Jacksonville. So now we're looking at the median sales price of Orlando. Unfortunately, not huge price cuts in Orlando. Orlando actually peaked at $402,000. Home median sales price has actually gone down only to $393,000, representing only a $9,000 drop, or unfortunately only 2.2% drop from peak to right now in Orlando. So now we're looking at median sales price for Tampa. Now Tampa peaked at $394,000 right here. It has gone down to $373,000, representing a peak to right now median sales price drop of $21,000, or 5.3% drop in Tampa from peak to now. Fort Lauderdale. So Fort Lauderdale peaked at $422,000, as you guys can see right now. Fast forward to today, the median sales price is $386,000. That represents a peak to right now loss of $36,000, or 8.5% drop from peak to right now. So Fort Lauderdale is experiencing some really nice median sales price drops right now. Now let's take a look at Miami. So Miami actually peaked as far as median sales price to $491,000. Today, the median sales prices average $481,000. Unfortunately, from peak to right now, that's only a difference of $10,000, or a drop from peak of only 2%. So obviously, guys, a little bit of a disappointing data from Orlando and Miami, but also really good information from Jacksonville, Fort Lauderdale, and it looks like Tampa is starting to have some decent price cuts. Now, again, you guys, it's still not close to being enough, but it is a start in the right direction. Now, where we're going to end is, let's jump into months of supply and inventory for all 5 metro areas, just to see how much growth we had from a months of supply aspect. And we're going to calculate that from the beginning of the year to right now. So we're looking at months of supply for Redfin, but unfortunately, even though this is called months of supply, Redfin is actually using weeks of supply. So it's a little bit complicated, but it is what it is. It's no problem. So starting with Jacksonville, guys, Jacksonville started out the year with only 6.5 weeks of supply. If we fast forward to today, Jacksonville has 15.8 weeks of supply, making that an increase of 143% of months of supply in Jacksonville. So we have a triple-digit inventory growth in Jacksonville for 2022. Now looking at Orlando. Orlando started out the year with only 5.2 weeks of supply. Fast forward to today, we now have 12.9 weeks of supply, making that an increase from the start of the year to right now of 148% increase of months of supply in Orlando for 2022. So taking a look at Tampa, Tampa started out the year with only 4.4 weeks of supply. Fast forward to today, we have 13.1 weeks of supply, and that's probably a result of new construction, guys. That represents from the start of the year to right now, 197% increase of months of supply in Tampa for 2022. So Tampa has the actual biggest increase of months of supply. So now looking at Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale started at the year at 10.6 weeks of supply. They now have 19.5 weeks of supply. So from the start of the year to right now, Fort Lauderdale has an increase of 83% as far as months of supply in 2022. So ending out at Miami. Now, real quick, guys, this is really astonishing, okay? So let me cover, Miami actually started out the year with 14.2 weeks of supply, but here's what's astonishing. From the start of the year to right now, we now have 25.2 weeks of supply. So 25.2 weeks of supply, represents roughly 6.3 months. And as you guys know, it takes over 6 months of inventory for a metro area to generally be considered a buyer's market. So essentially what this is saying is Miami has now turned in to a buyer's market because we now have over 6 months of inventory. But regardless, guys, from the start of the year to right now, that represents a 77% increase in Miami as far as months of supply in 2020. So even though all those metro areas are not seeing significant price cuts like Miami, we are seeing really amazing signs of increased months of supply of inventory. So that's really good, guys. Now, obviously that should catch up to prices here eventually, but not only that, we're talking about metro areas that have overwhelming, unprecedented investor share. So again, you guys, as the recession gets confirmed, unemployment goes up, hyper supply and things of that nature start to happen, these price cuts will only get bigger and the months of inventory and supply should only continue to surge. So in conclusion, I no longer believe that Tampa is going to be the hardest hit metro area in Florida. I originally thought Tampa because of the overwhelming amount of new construction, so I believe the metro area that will present the best buying opportunities in Florida and the first metro area to really start a crash will be either Jacksonville or Fort Lauderdale. Now, that's obviously subject to change because we really haven't seen the total impact of the hurricane damage and how that's going to play out exactly in Florida's housing market. So it's quite possible that metro areas that we didn't even cover today will present amazing buying opportunities to those of us who can stay ahead of inflation and unaffordability. Now, other than that, guys, I really hope you guys got some values, insight, and new perspective from today's video. And if you're out there investing in real estate, you know I wish you luck and I hope you win.